Today we're recapping NFL Week 14 on this edition of the Shumake Take. Let's get it! All right, and welcome in everybody. Hope you're having a fantastic, fantabulous, awesome freaking day. My name is Garrett Shumake, and you are listening to the Shumake Take. This is episode number 29, and we are recapping NFL Week 14, which was pretty darn good, if I do say so myself. Before we get into it, a little bit of housekeeping things. There is going to be a schedule change. Schedule change. Beep, 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 beep. Schedule change. Time. I'm now going to be uploading instead of Monday and Wednesday at 8 a.m. It is going to be Tuesday and Wednesday at 8 a.m. So weekly recaps will be coming out on Tuesday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time instead of Monday. These past couple of episodes, well, this episode and then episode 27, I watched all of Sunday Night Football the night before, was able to get the full context, and then on Monday, when I was getting ready to record this video in episode 27, I noticed that a lot more information about the games and a lot more statistics and general quips about the game came out after the fact. And listening back to episode 27, I noticed that my analysis of certain games was a lot better because I was able to get more additional context on the game. So just for the sake of the quality of the content, I want to make it come out one day later. That way I can kind of let that stuff, all those little, nuggets and whatnot, go into my social media feeds, throughout one more day. It also gives me a little bit more time to kind of put my thoughts together, which helps a little bit, of course. And then Wednesday, the previews are going to stay the same. I'm not going to change those. I debated if I was going to go back to making one big video a week, but I decided I'm not going to because most people, some people may just want to listen to my recap. Some people may just want to listen to my previews. So I'm still going to keep them two separate videos. So it's kind of, because one's talking about recapping one week and one's going into the next week. I might as well just keep them separate. I don't know if that's the best idea or not, but I think for most people, kind of giving the people the freedom to choose what they want to watch and, kind of splitting it up so they can watch one thing and then maybe watch another thing later if they want to. I feel like it just gives more viewers like you guys the freedom to choose what you want to watch instead of having to sit there and, watch one big video and skip through it until where you get to the point where you want to watch, right? So it'll be coming out Tuesday, the weekly recaps Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. and then Wednesday, the weekly previews for the next week of football will stay the same. But I think the content's gonna get better. I think it will improve it a lot. We'll have to see. But along with, improving the content that way, another thing I need to get better at, something I've noticed, is that I'm missing a lot of narratives. Whether it's narratives in the NFL or it's, something going on in the real world. Like the Thanksgiving episode, I went back and listened to it. I didn't tell you guys Happy Thanksgiving. I said Happy Thanksgiving in the description. Noticing afterward, I thought I said Happy Thanksgiving in the video. And I didn't. So, personally, happy, very belated Thanksgiving, I guess. But that's one thing I missed. And I was like, wow, for holidays, I got to be able to point that out and call that out because that's important. And then, narratives in the NFL. On Sunday, the Minnesota Vikings faced the Atlanta Falcons. Kirk Cousins went against his former team. I didn't even talk about that in episode 26, previewing NFL Week 14. I didn't even talk about that, which is crazy to me. I can't believe I missed that. But that's unfortunate. But I got to be more aware of that stuff. So coming to the preview that will come out on Wednesday for Week 15. That should be better. I'm going to do a little bit more due diligence on what exactly I'm going to be covering in each game. Not just the game in general, but the narratives outside of it. Because I feel like when I make my script and I want to talk about football, I get so worked up. Not worked up, but I get so concentrated and tunnel vision focus on talking about the game itself and making sure that the analysis of the game itself was really good. That kind of the outside narratives and revenge games, all that kind of stuff kind of goes out the window a little bit. And it shouldn't. It's part of the analysis. It's part of talking about each game because it matters. Kirk Cousins going against his former team, the Minnesota Vikings, and getting utterly destroyed, which we'll talk about later on in the show, it matters. It's important. So it needs to get in there. So I'm going to work on getting that better and improving my awareness of certain narratives, which obviously that'll help the show a lot. Other than that, slight setup change. As you can tell, I don't have a white wall in the background. You can probably see it right there. I don't know if I'm going to zoom in the video in post-production afterward. I might just a tad, just to kind of get that out of the way, because you can, if I don't, you can kind of see it right there, kind of hiding in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. Obviously, you can see, this is a poncho, just kind of swinging around right here. And you can kind of see a red shirt. That's a dress shirt, by the way, just kind of hanging out my closet. I decided to combine these together just to make it look a little bit more flesh and coherent. So it makes a little bit more sense. I really got to get that closet door painted to match the rest of my wall, which is gray, and the door is white. So that needs to happen at some point. And then other than that, today's sentimental object is a picture of myself as a little kid, and then my papa or my grandfather, one of the most influential people in my life. I love him to death. He is no longer with us. He passed away 10 years ago, past 10 years ago in November. So a few weeks ago, we I don't want to say celebrate. We celebrated his life. We'll say that. We celebrated his life on the day he passed away, November 18th. Crazy. It's been 10 years since that happened. To put that into context, I'm 22 now. I just got out of college 6 months ago. When that happened, I was in 7th grade, in the middle of middle school. So to put that in perspective, for me to think about it and look back on that, that's just crazy, because the time just flies, man. Time just flies by, and before you know it, it's literally 10 years since I've lost probably one of the most influential people in my life, if not the most influential person in my life. And God, I miss him a lot, and I wish he was here with us today. Because he really loved football, he really loved sports, he loved watching wrestling, the WWE. That was his big thing, because it was really fun. He really enjoyed watching it. But he is in a better place. I'm sure he's doing great. Love you, Papa. You are the face of this sentimental object for this episode. He deserves it. He deserves the world. Great, really, really fantastic human being. Apart from him being my grandfather, he is one of the most greatest human beings I have ever known. But other than that, we got I'm wearing a red shirt and a red hat today. I put on the red shirt and found the red hat to wear it. I swear to God, this is not because I'm a fan of the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm not. And it's not because of the Kansas City Chiefs winning over the Chargers, which we'll talk about at the end of the episode. But I put this on. I was like, I haven't worn this shirt in a while. We'll wear it, and I'll wear a red shirt to match. And I was like, here we go. We got a red tomato combo going on for this episode. But we got to talk about Thursday Night Football to begin recapping NFL Week 14. And we got to start with Thursday night. The Lions defeating the Packers in Ford Field 34-31. Lions winning a close-fought game as their over-aggression pushes them over the top, and Detroit clinches a playoff berth. And they clinched the playoff berth, and it's the second time in Lions history they've clinched back-to-back playoff berths. The first time they did it was the years 1993 to 1995, so that was a 3-year stretch at that time. It's a 2-year stretch right now, so a little bit more history to be made there, hopefully next year at the Lions, but we got to talk about now, because Dan Campbell was the big takeaway of this game for me, and at this point, I'm no longer calling him Dan Campbell as my script begins to fall away on me. I got to get a new case for this tablet so I can actually hold it up and not risk it falling over. But now Dan Campbell is no longer Dan Campbell. His name now, I'm going to refer to him as Guts Campbell, because Guts Campbell went 4 for 5 on 4th down. He went for it on 4th down inside his own 30 at one point in this game. Are you kidding me? This dude is crazy. This dude is legitimately crazy. And I know his theme and his MO ever since he became the head coach of the Lions was being super aggressive, going for it on 4th down, and being that type of dude. But this game was a whole different animal. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I mean, if you want to beat a divisional opponent that's really, really good, you're going to have to make some plays yourself and have some things that go your way. And he made plays where he called up plays. Well, Ben Johnson did technically. But his coaching style and that over-aggression is what pushed them over the top. And it ultimately ended up with them winning the game. 4th down, 43 seconds left to go in the game. Jared Goff hands it off to David Montgomery. He falls down as he's doing it, but is able to recover and complete the handoff. Montgomery gets a first down. They run the clock out. Jake Bates hits a game-winning field goal to break the tie and give them a win. And one of the big reasons why they won this game, other than the aggression, of course, was they dominated the time of possession. I can't remember exactly what the numbers were, but if you watched the game, you just knew. You just knew they were holding on to the ball they were not letting Jordan Love and this offense get on the field at all, especially at the end there. Dan Campbell talked about it in the post-game press conference, going for that 4th down conversion to win the game. He said he felt like the offense needed to stay out there, put the ball in their hands to go win it, not give the ball back to Jordan Love. And I think that was a great move because the defense is injured. They had a lot of people missing. Even in this game, more players went down with injuries on the defensive side of the ball. And so it worked out. If it wouldn't have worked out in the Chargers, if the Packers would have came back and kicked their field goal and won it, it would have been a different story, but that's not what happened. They kept the offense on the field, went for it, and they won. And because they were able to run the ball, Well, the thing was, they had 100 yards as a team, but they didn't get a lot most of the time. But I will say, though, Jared Goff was money. Jared Goff was money. They couldn't run the ball, and normally people say the narrative is, oh, he can't run the football, the Lions can't pass. Oh, yes, they can now. Yes, they can. 32 of 41, 283 yards, 3 touchdowns for Jared Goff. I thought he played fantastic. And while the running game wasn't as explosive and isn't as huge as it normally is for the Detroit Lions, these little short, dinky passes, just moving the chains and, working your way up the field slowly and surely. They were able to dominate time of possession game, as I mentioned, through that methodology. And Jared Goff, as I said, fantastic. He was able to hit Jameson Williams 5 times, 80 yards. Sam Laporta had 5 for 54. But the 2 players on offense that I really want to give appreciation to for Detroit, first one, Tim Patrick. Tim Patrick had 6 catches, 43 yards, 2 touchdowns. At this point, he's become a key guy. He's made big plays for the past 4 or 5 weeks since he's got there, since they picked him up. Multiple 3rd down catches, 2 touchdown catches in the red zone. One of them was on 4th down. I just can't express enough of how happy I am for Tim Patrick to be playing football, being healthy, playing at a high level, to suffer the injuries that he's went through. He went through a torn ACL, a torn Achilles. He was beaten and battered. Like, if you think about the injuries that J.K. Dobbins went through, Tim Patrick went through something very similar in a similar time frame. So to see him come back and play at a high level like he has, considering he hasn't really played, he didn't play football at all this year, I don't think. If I remember correctly, I think he was cut before the season started. He was on the Broncos practice squad. I think he got cut. Then he bounced around a couple times, and then he landed in Detroit, and boom. He's picking up right where he left off. He's playing well. He's become, like I said, he's become a good playmaker for them. And I'm just so happy for Tim Patrick. It's so awesome to see him back on the field playing. Caught the 2 touchdowns. It was awesome. After he caught this first one, there was a Lions fan grating cheese in the stands. That was pretty cool. But the other receiver is Amon-Ra St. Brown. 5 catches, 43 yards. He had a couple on the opening drive, which was fine. But then the second quarter, third quarter, going in second quarter, third quarter, he went dang near silent. No targets, no catches. And I was starting to think, this is not a really good game for Amon-Ra St. Brown. But the announcers, Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, this is Thursday Night Football, excuse me, I mixed that up. But the announcers talked about it. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a very selfless player. He doesn't care if he's getting the ball or not. He's going out there to do his job and worry about what he has to do. And what tends to happen when you tend to do less, Jared Goff talked about this in the post-game presser for him and for the Lions. When players tend to do less, more happens. And what happened? Amon-Ra St. Brown doesn't complain about not getting the ball, just goes out there, does his job, and then the fourth quarter, when they need him, he shows up and bam, he starts making plays. Multiple 3rd down conversions, multiple big plays down the field. And that right there is Amon-Ra St. Brown's bread and butter. Not the idea of starting, kind of warming up, going quiet, and coming in the fourth quarter. But Amon-Ra St. Brown is one of those players that always delivers. No matter where it is in the game, he's going to make a play, he's going to find something and make it happen. And when he doesn't get the ball, he is still running his butt off. He's still running routes to his fullest, even if it's a simple clear-out route where he's not supposed to get the ball, but he's supposed to take a safety, run it with them to get something open down the middle of the field. He's going to do it and willingly sell it and make sure that the receiver that's supposed to get the ball will get the ball. And when you look at the Lions offense being the best in the NFL, and you look at some of the other top offenses in the NFL, you look at Philly, you look at Buffalo, for example, what are the 3 things that these teams talk about that they have in common? The players are selfless. When players are not worried about getting the ball, they worry about what they can control and doing what they can, what's best for the team. And in turn, like Jared Goff said, when players tend to do less, more happens. More definitely happens. When everyone is focused on just doing what they can for the team and just doing what they need to do to win, the best offenses in the league show out and they play great because they don't care. All they care about is putting up points on the board and playing together. That's what they care about. And you heard Josh Allen talk about this earlier in the year, talking about his receivers being selfless and not caring if they get the ball or not and putting out, going full effort every down. You talk about that, Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni talked about that, especially Nick Sirianni talked about it with Jalen Hurts a few weeks ago, about how selfless he is. And we'll talk about more about that later on when we come back to this topic with Philly when they beat Carolina. But that's why the best offenses in the league are the best, because they don't care about who gets the ball. They don't care about what happens. What they care about is just doing their job and producing and winning. And when that doesn't happen, they see it's on them as a team, not on one individual player. And that type of formula is perfect. It's absolutely perfect. And that's why, because when you literally, I can't say it enough without repeating myself again, but when players do less, more happens. That's the truth. It's the simple truth. When players start complaining about not getting the ball and, people start getting a little bit selfish, it creates a little bit of a rift and it makes it harder to get everybody the ball, get everybody involved and pretty much execute your game plan how you want to execute it because you're so focused on getting one person the ball, and then it becomes an issue because no one else feels like it gets their fair share, if that makes any type of sense. But we'll move on to the defense here. The defense played fine for the most part. The first half was really good. The second half was not very great because obviously the Lions defense has 13 players on IR right now. Had a couple more go down in this game, like I mentioned. And so everything started falling apart a little bit. You could tell that, there's a lot of new pieces. Zadarius Smith is still relatively new. They signed Quan Alexander. He's new. They signed Jamal Adams. He's new. So, a bunch of new, cogs in this defensive machine for Detroit that are trying to figure stuff out. And they made some plays. Zadarius Smith, he got a sack in the fourth quarter against Jordan Love. That's really what saved this game for them on defense. They came alive in the fourth quarter, especially in the pass rush. They were getting after Jordan Love. They weren't getting sacks, but they were able to get enough pressure, force him off his mark, making throws off his back foot and, hurting the accuracy, which that was enough for them to win. And they really tried to give the Packers a chance to win this game. Penalties for them were really bad in this game, especially DPI. They got two really, really bad ones. Lions are the most called team for DPI in the NFL. So the overall lack of depth and obviously the injuries kind of caught up to them a bit. But the Lions defense, ultimately, they showed out. They did their job and won the game for them, which is great. Moving on to the Packers. We'll start with Jordan Love, 12 of 20, 206 yards, 1 touchdown. Didn't have a fantastic game numbers-wise, but played solid, played clean. All you can really ask for from your quarterback. And then you look at Dontavian Wicks, 4 for 49, clutch in the second half, especially in the fourth quarter. He started catching passes over the middle, started becoming a chain mover there at the end when they were trying to come back. And I think he's a really good fourth receiver. He's not a good, I don't know if good. I don't want to go that far. That's mean. But I don't know what his potential is as a third receiver or higher, but definitely as a fourth, if you get Romeo Doubs back in there, he's a great fourth receiver because Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, good guys on the outside. Romeo Doubs, I think he's the slot. Yeah, is it Romeo Doubs or Jaden Reed that's in the slot? I think it's Romeo Doubs that's in the slot because Dontavian Wicks, that's where he lined up. But Dontavian Wicks is a great fourth receiver. And if he continues to develop, I think he has the potential to develop into a starting slot receiver and have a bigger role in another offense. But for right now, obviously he's going to be in Green Bay for a while, so that young four quadruplets at wide receiver for the Packers are really, really good. And then getting into the Tucker Kraft. Tucker Kraft got a touchdown in this game. He got hit at one point by Kirby Joseph, got smacked down, and you know how when you lay on your back and you jump off, you jump off the ground off your back onto your feet. He did that with a man that size. That was pretty impressive. Just kind of thought I'd mention that. But the passing game, like I said, overall, it was clean. It was efficient. Nothing flashy, but it worked. It was getting the job done at points. And then Josh Jacobs, he had a very gritty performance. 18 carries, 66 yards. Not a great stat line, but he had 3 touchdowns. When he got into the green zone, he was money. And by the way, if you don't know what the green zone is, for context, the red zone is the 20-yard line to the end zone. That's what they call the red zone. The green zone is the 10-yard line to the end zone. They call it the green zone because at that point you're almost guaranteed to get points as long as you obviously don't fumble or throw a pick. So nothing crazy happens. But if you're in the green zone, more than likely you are coming away with points. Most often you should come away with a touchdown if you're, in that green zone. Excuse me. I just hit my microphone. Oh, there we go. Move it back. Boom. Here we go. So Josh Jacobs in that green zone area was money. 3 touchdowns on the goal line. Good for him. Like I said, very gritty performance. Nothing great, nothing spectacular. But but when it mattered, when he got down to the goal line, he was money. He got the job done there. So good for him. The first half was a bit rough for Green Bay. They had penalties that were killing them. The offensive line, especially in the first quarter, was a little bit leaky. They were allowing some pressure get in, especially on the interior, a couple times on the edge. And running the ball wasn't as effective compared to the second half. But the second half was so much better. The Packers corner, Keyshawn Nixon gets a huge interception, runs it back for like 15, 20 yards. Packers immediately drive down the field, get a touchdown, take the lead. And along with that, they mitigated those penalties. Josh Jacobs started, churning out a little bit better, churning out yards, got a little bit better. And this allowed Jordan Love to go back to play action and just cook over the top. Love had a big throw to Christian Watson in this game. It was awesome. And you can see stuff like Dontavian Wicks getting over in the middle of the field over and over and over again, taking advantage of that lack of depth and lack of cohesion in that middle linebacker spot without Alex Anzalone patrolling the middle of the field. And Jack Campbell, he was there, but with Quan Alexander is a little bit tough. And overall, the big takeaway for the Packers are a good football team. They just faced a really tough Lions team. I think the Lions are the best team in the NFL objectively. Some people would make the argument for Philly or Buffalo, and I would listen to it. I'm open to it. But in my opinion, I think the objective answer is the Detroit Lions. Simply put, what their offense has been able to do all year long and what their defense has been able to do despite all the injuries, I think it's very impressive. It's very gritty. It's tough. This Detroit Lions team is the most Detroit Lions team I think we've ever had, if that makes any sort of sense. But it's a good formula, and the Packers are good too. They adapted well in the second half. They had a chance to win, and obviously you didn't get it, which sucks because if you could have got a win on the road against a divisional opponent, that would have been huge. But as I mentioned with all the stuff with the Lions, they're a tough football team. They showed why. But overall, this was a very great game, one of the best games of the week for sure. Moving on to the Browns at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers winning at 27-14, getting a dominant win, securing another 10-win season for Mike Tomlin. Good job for you, good sir. And they also clinch a playoff berth. Cleveland, once again, also falls just short. Well, I should say just short. They fell short. This game, though, I will say, it was close for most of the game. The Steelers, they had a fumble. The run game was gritty like the Packers. Wasn't particularly great, but wasn't explosive. Overall, they won the turnover battle, and they were better on third down. Those are the two big things that gave the Steelers the win. Turnovers and third down conversions, those are the great equalizers of the NFL. Mostly people get the turnover thing because being able to take the ball away from an offense and getting better field position, obviously that's easily why that's the great equalizer in the NFL. But I would also say third downs, because if you're not able to get off the field on third down and maintain drives, it makes it so much harder to play complementary football. And you look at the best teams in the NFL. You look at Buffalo. You look at Detroit. You look at Philly. You even look at Kansas City, for example, at times during the year. When teams or offenses are able to run clock out a little bit, sustain drives, get a couple first downs, and really give their defense a rest, the defense can come out there, make some plays, get off the field themselves, and allow the offense to quickly get back on the field and keep on going. If you're able to do that, it makes it so much easier to win football games. And so when you can't when you can't convert on third down offensively, it creates a whole lot more problems because you're not winning time of possession. You're not helping out your defense, like I mentioned. All the stuff that NFL teams need to do to win football games, not converting on third down, throws a lot of it in the trash or slows it down greatly. And so that's why, third down conversions are another great equalizer in the NFL, along with turnovers. And as I mentioned, the Steelers, they were better in those categories, which is why they won. And we'll get to the players. Russell Wilson, 15 of 26, 158 yards, 2 touchdowns, very clean and efficient. But this almost felt like a vintage Russell Wilson game. How is it a vintage Russell Wilson game? Well, he had a couple plays there where he ran around, extended play, threw a touchdown to Calvin Austin. I think it was Calvin Austin. Was it someone else? Maybe it was. I can't remember. But rolled out to his right, was rolling, boom, found a guy open in the end zone. Had another play where he rolled to the right, made an insane throw on the run to convert and get a first down. So that part, sure, vintage Russell Wilson. But what people don't talk about when they mention Russell Wilson, especially in his time in Seattle when he was in his prime, he was great, was he ran the offense really, really well. Obviously, he's remembered for the circus plays, all the running around, all the antics and whatnot. But people tend to forget Russell Wilson can deal from the pocket. He can throw. He is very smart. He is intelligent. He can read a defense well. When it comes to playing the quarterback position, he can play the X's and O's. He plays it very, very well. And that's kind of the unsung part of his game and why this is a vintage Russell Wilson game was because he's doing it almost just as well as he was in Seattle at this point. When he was with Denver, it was hard because the receivers weren't great. Obviously, the system was not catered to his skill set because while Russell Wilson, he can, throw with anticipation, throw on time. He's been able to do that. He's not Drew Brees. He's not that level of Drew Brees where everything's anticipation, dead-eye accuracy. Like, that's not really his game. Like, when you look at Russell Wilson, you look at Drew Brees, they're different quarterbacks. And Sean Payton, his offense works with a quarterback that's more like Drew Brees. And now you look at Bo Nix and look at the skill set. Obviously, they intertwine a little bit. But Russell Wilson's a little bit different. But this game reminded me a lot of what Russell Wilson did in Seattle all those years ago. And if you're Pittsburgh, you need to re-sign him to a contract. I don't know how big it's going to be because he's in his 30s. I don't know if it's going to be like anything massive. I don't know. It's probably going to be something similar to Baker got this year, like a 3-year, $160 million deal, I think. I think it's very possible. I didn't really think about it until free agency hits later in March. But you need to re-sign Russell Wilson if you're Pittsburgh. You got to get this guy back into the building because, honestly, I know it's not just Russell Wilson, but the offense looks so much better than it has these past couple of years with Matt Canada and Kenny Pickett, offensive coordinator, quarterback, respectively. It's simply been great. It's simply been so much better. Now, their offense isn't like top tier, but god dang it, it is really, really good. They run the football well. They have good receivers on the outside. And overall, I mean, they got the quarterback now, the veteran quarterback, that can run this system and run it efficiently. Look at I go back to Arthur Smith and his theme and his time in Tennessee. Who did he have at quarterback? Ryan Tannehill, a veteran quarterback with some mobility, but with the ability to throw the football. He was smart, knows the offense. It's the same concept. It's literally the same offense. You got a veteran quarterback that's a little bit mobile, that can make throws on the run, that can, run the structure of the offense normally, can distribute the ball when needed, can have a good running game, good running back, and Najee Harris. Boom. It's the same concept. It's a formula that's been working. It's a formula that works really well for them. And when you talk about Pittsburgh distributing the ball, no player had over 3 catches, but 9 players caught a catch. And while on the receiver end, sure, that's not great on paper, but you look at what the offense has been able to do, and it's still efficient and productive. It doesn't matter. You don't always have to have these big games from George Pickens or Calvin Austin, who's had a couple good games this year. It's just a matter of just doing your job and executing. And I mentioned this, top offenses in the NFL, they're selfless. They do their thing. And so far it's been successful for them. And then the Steelers on the defensive side of the ball continue to be great. They're flying all over the field. They got 3 sacks. They got 2 interceptions, obviously. One of them, defensive lineman Keanu Benton got a pick, read a screen pass, got it off, picked off Winston. That was pretty cool. Gotta love big man interceptions. They're awesome. In Pittsburgh, like I said, just high level, clean, efficient football. And officially, I will say it now with definite fact. Probably should have been said a few weeks earlier, but now Pittsburgh is a Super Bowl contender. Straight up, they are. And some people will say, oh, their offense, Russell Wilson. Well, guess what? Russell Wilson's playing great. He's not playing insane like he was in Seattle, but that same core reasons for why he's successful now are the same reasons why he was successful in Seattle. And you look at that, boom. They're a Super Bowl contender because now not only do they have an elite defense, but now they have an offense that's able to go down the field, put up points, can run the ball well, throw the ball well. They now have an offense that can complement their defense, and now they're a really freaking good football team. They are a Super Bowl contender now, and that's crazy because everything was so sad and so and then went to all the mystery when they first got rid of Pickett, then they got Wilson, got Fields, and then Justin Fields started and they were winning games. Offense looked good. And then Russell Wilson came in and people were like, oh, this is a bad idea. I even said that. And then Russell Wilson comes in here and he's only lost one game since coming back as a starter for Pittsburgh. And he's been lighting it up ever since. He made this offense that much better. And that's all I can say. It's just, they're great. They're a great football team right now. And it's because they got the offense right finally. And I think Russell Wilson needs to stay in Pittsburgh. I think they got to do whatever they can to bring him back, and I think they're going to bring him back as long as he continues to have the year that he's had. I think he's going to be back regardless. But they're a great football team all the way around. Enough talking about Pittsburgh. We got to get to Cleveland. Jameis Winston, starting with him, it was more of the same. 211 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Both were pretty darn bad, especially the screen pass that was picked off by Benton. But the turnovers, as I mentioned, were the thing that killed them. They were also awful on third down. Going back to the turnovers, it wasn't just the 2 picks. It was a muffed punt by Kadarius Toney. Ben Skoranek recovers it. Then Kadarius Toney throws the football at Ben Skoranek as he's walking away. I'm not a guy that calls for players to be fired or be cut or stuff like that because that's a man's livelihood. I'm never gonna root for a man to fail, but God dang it, dude. Come on. Kadarius Toney's a bonehead. He's an absolute bonehead. You muff the punt, and the guy recovers it, and then you're going to throw the football at him, and then you get a taunting penalty? That's the stuff that, drives me up a wall. Because you already made a bad mistake, muffing the punt. You know what? It happens. Sometimes you just muff a punt. It's not, a 100% success rate. But you cannot compound that by making another stupid decision and throwing a ball at somebody. Come on. Why? Just why? That literally makes no sense to me. And then you get a penalty and it hurts your defense. Why would you do that? Why would you do that and just do something stupid that hurts the team? You hear NFL head coaches talk about this all the time. Don't do dumb crap to hurt the team. That's doing dumb crap to hurt the team. And while that wasn't the big reason why Cleveland lost, it definitely played a role because you already give Pittsburgh a short field by muffing the punt, and then you get a penalty that adds on even more to it. I mean, that's a guaranteed touchdown or field goal at that point. It's guaranteed points practically. And so to do that and compound a mistake and make it worse, God, it's so frustrating when players do that. But let's see, continuing on the script. I'll just continue before we go any further on that rant. Browns, they struggled to run the football again. Nick Chubb, 11 carries, 44 yards. He had an okay day, I guess. It was his best game since coming back from injury, which is notable. And then in the receiving game, David Njoku had 7 catches for 42 yards, had a touchdown. Wish he'd get the ball more a little bit in open space. He's been like a chain mover, check down type of guy for Cleveland. But I've always thought that he could emerge and be a really good tight end in the NFL, and he really hasn't taken that next step. I wish they would use him a little bit more. I think it would help a lot in opening that dynamic because he's a dynamic athlete. He's a good athlete. So I've always thought that David Njoku could be a really good tight end. I don't know if it's because he really isn't that good of a tight end, as I'm thinking in my head, or they're just not utilizing him to his fullest potential. I'm not really sure there. A Browns fan, let me know in the comments down below. The other receiver that had a really good day, Jerry Jeudy, 5 catches, 64 yards, had a big 34-yard touchdown early in the game. It's nice that there's consistency getting put together for him because he had the big game on Sunday night against Denver. Comes out here, obviously nowhere near as good of a game as that, but that's a game that'll never happen again. That's very hard to reach. But again, another solid performance, another big play, moving the chains. That's what you want to see out of a young receiver. Continue to develop and continue to improve. And that's good for them. And defensively, they just fell apart at the end. Offense obviously not getting off the field on third down didn't help them out. And then 2 picks, the fumble. They also went for it on fourth down one time, didn't get it. That didn't help either. That's another turnover on the board for Cleveland. You can't turn the ball over against Pittsburgh. They're going to make you pay for it every single time Steelers win in dominant fashion. I'll take a sip of water real quick. I'm hot. This room is very, very hot right now. It's not this week. It's going to be like a solid low 70-degree weather. So it's no longer cold outside, so it's hotter in here than it is outside. And man, it is. God, it's hot. I don't know if you can see this, but like my forehead, I am sweating. I am sweating a lot right now. And we're only getting into the third game. We got like 10 games or something like that to talk about. Oh man, this is gonna be a very interesting episode. This is gonna be a battle of attrition here, because you know what? No, I'm not gonna stop and take a break. As much as my body's gonna want me to, I want to try and fight through it. If I absolutely have to stop, I'll stop. But we'll see. Moving on to the Saints at the New York Giants. Saints win 14-11, marching into the Big Apple, and amid their own special teams disaster after disaster, their special teams is what gave them a win. Brian Breesy blocking Graham Gano's potentially game-tying kick. Oh my gosh. That's great. You gotta love a blocked kick. You have to love special teams stepping up in big moments. Sure, Blake Group A missed, or Group A, I can't remember. I'm assuming Group A missed 2 field goals in this game. Saints should have won 20-11. But hey, the Giants were driving down the field. Drew Lock gets a huge run on 4th and 15, converts it. A couple plays later, they get in position to kick this field goal. Brian Brzee jumps, bam, blocks the kick, and it's game over. What a win. What a way to win for the New Orleans Saints. We'll start with the offense. Derek Carr, 20-31, 219 yards, had a touchdown, had an interception that was pretty interesting. It was fine. He got injured late, which is unfortunate. I don't know what the extent of the injury is right now, but Jake Haener had to step in, didn't throw anything, but he was out there. The run game was also kind of meh for the New Orleans Saints. They really couldn't get much going. Really wasn't explosive. But we'll do again. In the receiving game, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, weekly MVS shout out, 4 catches, 51 yards for him, continues to play well. Really has found a niche and found a home here in New Orleans, which is good for him. Kind of bounced around a little bit after he left Kansas City. So it's good to see that he's with the Saints. He's doing well. Rooting for him to continue his success there. Hopefully they bring him back next year. That'd be really nice for them. The Saints defense, though, they struggle to get pressure. Demario Davis got a huge interception there in the fourth quarter, which was huge, but the Saints defense against the New York Giants really struggled. And Drew Lock, 21-49, 227 yards, had the interception, had 59 rushing yards. 4th and 15 was awesome. Not great performance from Drew Lock, but I mean, in this instance, it was enough to win. Obviously, he wasn't out there, going to kick the ball. He wasn't a blocker. It wasn't his fault that the kick got missed. But I don't know. I thought it was just fine. It was a good enough performance to win, but not exactly ideal. Tyrone Tracy, 16 for 45 and a touchdown. Not a great performance from him either, but at least they were trying to get him involved. And hey, the Giants were closer to winning. I don't know if that's notable or not. I mean, correlation doesn't equal causation, or causation doesn't equal correlation. But I mean, you try to get him more involved, and the Giants were kind of in this game. I don't know. Maybe you get him the ball more. I don't know. He's a rookie running back, and he's doing really well. I would give him the ball, just saying. And they tried to. Didn't work in this game, but at least they're giving it a shot this go-around instead of giving him only 6 to 9 carries in a game, which these past couple of games, it's been very annoying that they're doing that. Malik Neighbors, 5 catches, 79 yards. Coming into this game, he had the most catches by a rookie through the first 13 games of the year in NFL history, passing of, coincidentally enough, Odell Beckham Jr. when he was a rookie in the Giants in 2014, 10 years ago, which is pretty crazy to think about. And backup tight end Daniel Bellinger. No, is he a starter or backup? I can't remember him. Oh, I think it might just be splitting reps with Theo Johnson. I can't fully remember over there in New York. But Daniel Bellinger, tight end, 5 catches, 45 yards. He was a nice surprise. He played well in this game. Notable there. Defensively, the Giants played kind of good. I mean, they got a takeaway. They got 2 sacks. Pressure dialed up in the fourth quarter, especially. They were able to get after Jake Haener and Derek Carr when he ultimately went out. Special teams obviously played a factor. The Saints missed 2 field goals. So, I mean, they were in this game more than I thought they actually would be. I thought the Saints would kind of trample on them a little bit, not blow them out of the water, but I thought it'd be like a 21-10 type of win. Something kind of like, solid win, 2-score win, fine. But they played it close. They played it well. And going back to New Orleans to conclude it, they aren't in the playoff race, but at this point, maybe winning games and building momentum for next year might be better than where they draft. I know I talked about before the season started that they need to either just be bad or be good because being in purgatory doesn't help them. And in this case, I might actually argue that being in this purgatory and maybe working to get to like 7-10 or 6-11 will help them because they continue to win games. They continue to play well for the most part. Getting that momentum to go into next year, knowing that you finished on a mostly positive note, you showed some good things that you can build on and work on going into next year. I feel like for the culture and for the locker room and for the players, that does a lot better or does a lot better for the team than it does getting a higher draft pick because you're going to get a new head coach coming this offseason. You're going to, revamp that area. You're going to be able to add more players to your team. And if you can get the right head coach, this team could probably go places next year if everything goes right for them. And as long as they continue to build this momentum and continue to win football games here and there and play mostly good football here in this last, few games of the year, we could be talking about this time next year in 2025, we could be having a completely different conversation about the New Orleans Saints, but that's not here. That's going to be all the way over there. And for New York, man, it's just another heartbreaking loss. Just another heartbreaker. Actually had a chance to win this game or tie it at least. And the loss just reaffirms that they just need to reset. This rebuild thing that they were trying to do hasn't worked, and they just need a complete reset at this point. I've already said that a couple episodes already, but just to say it again, they got to reset, got to get everybody out, just get new people in here. And you got some pieces to build around. You got Malik Neighbors, you got Theo Johnson, you got a good tackle in Andrew Thomas, Tyrone Tracy. There's pieces here in this offense. Maybe you go get Cam Ward and get a good offensive head coach and develop him. But the Giants, just tough. Just another tough, sad loss and what's been a continuous disappointing season for them. This game did not disappoint, though. The Miami Dolphins defeating the New York Jets 36-32 in overtime. Tua delivers yet again in this game. 33 of 47, 331 yards, 2 touchdowns, including what was the game winner. And the big takeaway of this game, obviously in overtime, was Jonnu Smith. Look, Tyreek Hill had a bounce-back game. 10 catches, 115 yards, had a touchdown. Jalen Waddle, 9 for 99. Great performance by those two. Obviously, with those two guys doing well, this offense is playing at a high level. But Jonnu Smith, 3 catches, 44 yards, 1 touchdown, all of it happening in overtime. He's caught a pass, ran with it. Caught a pass, ran with it. He was money when it mattered most. And that's where the Dolphins' offense is kind of lacked, where Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are guys that will fly up the field. And, they get open in the middle of the field and whatnot. They use them to attack that, but they don't have an inside, like, middle of the field threat outside of those two guys. Jonnu Smith has become that. He is great at running these little crossing routes, running seam routes, anything that can attack that middle of the field, he has really gotten good at. And he has found a role in Miami with the Dolphins. I hope they keep him around for a while because he has taken this passing game to another level when it's working at its best. And for the offense, running game was awful. It didn't matter, though, because Tua was lean on it a little bit. As you can looking at the stats, they obviously did. And it worked. It was well. They were doing well. They had a couple big returns as well, kick returns. Although Miami's defense struggled. I thought that this could be a game where they could, go up against a lowly struggling Jets offense, have an opportunity to, get a bounce back performance, and then they really didn't. And for the Jets, the offense looked probably one of the best it's looked all year long. Aaron Rodgers had 349 yards, a touchdown. He had one of his best games probably of the year, and one of the best overall as a New York Jet. Well, okay, he only played 1 year. I mean, yeah, last year he got torn Achilles, so he didn't play last year. But still, either way, like one of his best performances we've seen him so far in a Jets uniform. And Garrett Wilson had 114 yards. Devontae Adams had 109 yards and a touchdown. They were doing well. The run game wasn't too bad. Braylon Allen started in for Breece Hall, who was out. 11 carries, 43 yards. Isaiah Davis had 10 for 40 and a touchdown. It was good enough. I thought the offense did good enough in this game to win for the first time this year. And what's sad is it's the defense for the Jets that really let them down. And this is something you tend to see with bad football teams. Bad football teams, they'll get a few wins on the year, fine, but they tend to win in the exact same way every single time. And for the Jets, how they've been able to win, play good defense, and just offensively do just enough to win. But now that the offense is pulling their weight and they're performing well on offense, they're doing really good overall, the Jets defense couldn't complement that. They couldn't build off of that. And bad teams learn to win they play only one way. The formula to win is almost always the same. And when something else even improves and does better, the team doesn't know how to adapt to that and, use that momentum and be even better. And that's something you tend to see with bad football teams. And that's what happened here with the Jets. And the defense really, really, really let them down in this game. Very unfortunate, because I thought the Jets offense did enough to win, and they probably should have won, but Jets defense had other plans today, and Tua also had his other plans. He was dealing in this game. Next up, we got the worst game of the week. The Jacksonville Jaguars defeating the Tennessee Titans 10-6. The Jaguars break their losing streak, get their first road win since last Thanksgiving. And for Tennessee, they are now the new worst team in the AFC. We'll start with Jacksonville, where Mac Jones stepped in for the injured Trevor Lawrence, who went on IR. I think he's going to be done for the year at this point. 23 of 31, 220 yards, 2 interceptions that were pretty bad. But outside of those interceptions, I thought he was very clean and efficient. He was getting dink and dunk throws. He was moving the chains. And that's the type of offense that the Mac Jones likes to run, because he's not the most athletic guy. He doesn't got, speed, doesn't have the arm. So throwing with anticipation and taking the short, easy completions, that's where Mac Jones is at his best. And that's what he did really well when he was a rookie in New England. And so the formula there worked. It really did well, despite not running the ball well, too. Like, normally when you can't run the ball, it makes it harder to throw the ball. But the Titans defense sold out to stop the run in this game, and in turn, it just made things easier for the passing game, because they the defense for the Titans simply were not prepared for it. And I thought they could have done a better job there. Going back to Jacksonville, though, Brian Thomas Jr., 8 catches, 86 yards, had a very strong second half, really kind of quiet in the first half, but second half, especially in the late third quarter, early fourth quarter, started getting a bunch of catches together. He had 4 straight catches at one point in this game. Evan Ingram continues to be a chain mover for them. Travis Etienne didn't really do well running on the ground, but 4 catches was 50 yards. He was clutch. He moved the chains, converted a couple third downs, had a big 4th down and 2 conversion where he caught it, ran across, got like 20 yards, which is awesome for them. Defensively, was not great in the running game. Tony Pollard kind of had his way, but in the second half, the secondary was all over this passing game. Every time you looked, receivers for Tennessee were not getting open. They were covered. They were batting down passes. They were able to break up passes. There was a big 3rd down slant route. Will Levis trying to go to Calvin Ridley, try to catch it. It was in his hands. Boom, got punched out by the rookie corner that they have over there, who had a good game for Jacksonville. But how did they win this game? Jacksonville won because they won the turnover battle. The Titans had 3 turnovers to Jacksonville's 2. And Tennessee went 0 for 3 on 4th down. 0 for 3, the first one, Titans were on a goal line Will Levis misses an open receiver in the end zone. It was kind of like a concept. I can't remember what the concept was, but they were trying to get everybody to go to the right side. They had two tight ends running to the left, and he threw it up to the tight end that was covered and missed the tight end underneath that was wide open. And that was the beginning of the start of the collapse for them. Levis, 19 of 32, 168 yards. He was mid in this game. Not a great performance considering that how well he's played the previous 4 games and going up against the worst pass defense in the NFL, this was very mind-boggling to me because Tony Pollard, 21 carries, 102 yards, that was not the formula that Tennessee needed to win this game. Like I said, Jacksonville had the worst pass defense in the NFL, and they just did not throw the ball. The first half, they barely threw the ball at all. They were just running the football, and looking at what the Jaguars were able to do on offense and what the Titans did on offense, the game plan that they had for this game was completely out of whack. It was completely out of whack for what they needed to do. And it showed. They couldn't throw the football when they needed to. Sure, they ran the ball, but that was not what they needed to do. And they just simply weren't able to scheme anybody open. Receivers weren't able to get separation. It was very bizarre. Very, very bizarre on Tennessee's end. And Calvin Ridley had 7 catches, 59 yards. This was supposed to be a revenge game for him. Quite frankly, he wasn't that good in this game either. And right now, Jacksonville fans, they're laughing because they have Brian Thomas Jr. now, which, quite frankly, they're in a much better situation there at the receiver position than Tennessee is right now. And for Tennessee, continuing on with them, defensively, the only bright spots were the interceptions. This defense, I've said it a few weeks now, it is overrated. It is not a good defense. It is not a good defense because they can't get pressure on the quarterback. They need an edge rusher so bad. This Jaguars offensive line is not a very good offensive line, and you have Jeffrey Simmons and Devondre Sweat. Harold Landry is a good effort rusher for them, and they simply don't have that guy that can just wreck a game. They simply don't have the pass rush ability that they just don't have it. They simply don't have it. And when you cannot get pressure on a quarterback, no matter who is back there, they're going to carve you up. It doesn't matter how good your secondary is. It doesn't matter that you get L'Jarius Sneed. It doesn't matter that you get Chidobe Awuzie. It doesn't matter what you do in the secondary, however you revamp it. If you cannot get a pass rush, it does not matter. In the NFL, one of the biggest positions, important positions on a football team is an edge rusher, and they simply don't have it. They simply don't have it, and they're not doing enough in the interior either, and that's ultimately what killed them and what's killed them multiple times throughout the year. And we'll conclude real quick with Jacksonville. They're just looking to find something positive, and they got it. Got a huge win on the road against a divisional opponent. That's always big. That's always awesome for a team, for a culture. And for Tennessee, as I mentioned at the beginning of the segment, they're the worst team in the AFC now. And I can no longer defend Brian Callahan. I was one of the people that have kind of openly showed my support for him because, look, offensive head coach, his team is fighting, they're doing their thing. And these past couple weeks, for Titans fans, they've said it's unacceptable. Unacceptable because you get a huge win on the road against Houston. Then you come out flat against the Commanders. Before you know it, you're down 28-0 early in the second quarter, weren't prepared to play, and then you come out and you drop only 6 points against one of the worst defenses in the NFL? Oh no. You cannot have that. You simply cannot have that. And it's going to be hard to maintain a locker room when you got a few wins, but when in these losses where there's times where Brian Callahan simply is putting his team in positions to lose and going for, like, for example, they went for it for a Hail Mary right before halftime. They got an interception, and instead of just taking a knee and going out, they try to run a play. The tackle gets smoked, and bam, Levis gets hit, smacked down from behind, and re-aggravates his shoulder. And it's like, what are we doing here? Like, those are situations, those are decisions. And the lack of a proper game plan and preparedness these past 2 games, that's the type of stuff that will get a head coach fired. And next week, I don't like to talk about like the future of of team schedules because it kind of just has to come and go as it is. I kind of see every game as it is by itself. But Tennessee hosts Cincinnati next week, which Brian Callahan was the offensive coordinator there for 5 years. So if there's any game that for Tennessee, the players would be fighting for Brian Callahan, their head coach, it would be this game. And depending on how well they play, depending on how they look going into this game, if they look unprepared, if they look like they give up and they quit, I think Brian Callahan's going to end up being fired at the end of his first year, which is sad because I thought he's done some good things over there in Tennessee. And to see some of the blunders that he's had, simply put, I mean, if there's more bad than good and Tennessee can't get anything going for the rest of the year, I don't know. I don't know if you can keep your job after going 3-14 after a year where a lot of people, especially Titans fans, were sold on this team being an improvement. But moving on to the Falcons and the Vikings. Vikings winning 42-21, getting another dominant win. And the Falcons, their descent. At this point, it is time to hit the panic button. And that's where we're going to start. We're going to start with Atlanta. We'll start with the positives. We'll have to start with a couple positives. Bijan Robinson had 92 yards, had a touchdown. Tyler Algier had 9 carries, 63 yards. He had a touchdown. They were both fantastic in this game. Drake London, 5 catches, 70 yards. He was fine. But Ray McLeod, 8 for 98. Darnell Mooney, 6 catches, 142 yards. Their skill players were fantastic in this game for the Falcons. But once again, what falls short? What piece of this offense begins or continues to fall short for them right now? And it's Kirk Cousins. 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And when you get a 3-game losing streak and it falls to 4, what happens? What happens in a losing streak? It starts with something more minuscule, like one player, Kirk Cousins. In this 4-game losing streak, he has now thrown 0 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Absolutely terrible performance by Kirk in this game. But when one little issue continues happening and a losing streak happens, something bigger, a bigger domino tends to fall. And in this game, it was the defense, especially the secondary. The secondary for Atlanta was bad. Like no other way to put it. It was just straight up garbage bad. Very, very bad. Sam Darnold, 22 of 28, 347 yards, 5 touchdowns. He had the best game of his career flat out. This was the best game Sam Darnold, I think, has ever played in the NFL. And it's insane. It's absolutely insane. This guy was terrible with the Jets, terrible in Carolina. Then he goes to be the backup in Minnesota, gets thrust into the starting role because J.J. McCarthy, their first-round pick, gets hurt, done for the year. And he's come in and he's played at an extremely high level. Like, Jesus Christ, man. Sam Darnold's been awesome this year. And this game was fantastic. Jordan Addison, 8 catches, 133 yards, 3 touchdowns, got open on a big 47-yard touchdown. Justin Jefferson, 7 for 132, 2 touchdowns, had a big play himself. Aaron Jones, 13 for 73, had a touchdown. Wasn't a big day for him, but 5.6 yards per carry. Was a very good chain mover and just was efficient and clean, which is good. And defensively, they didn't have their best performance. I mean, you look at the numbers from the top players for the Falcons, they're putting up really good numbers. But when you see the offense step up and pull their weight when the defense, which has been the stronger side of this team, kind of fall off a little bit, seeing their offense step up in a big way against a pretty decent Falcons defense, you can't even be upset about it. You simply can't even be upset about it. And this is why the Vikings are going places. I'd love for them to keep Sam Darnold as a backup. Obviously, he's probably going to leave and be a bridge quarterback and continue starting for another team. But man, if you're Minnesota, you have to be pounding the table, do whatever it is you can to keep Sam Darnold as a backup, to continue developing J.J. McCarthy, because having that insurance at the quarterback position and having that consistency does so much. Not only does it help your team, it helps the culture, it helps the locker room. More importantly, the consistency at backup quarterback helps your starting quarterback, would help J.J. McCarthy so much. So keeping Sam Darnold back, whatever you need to do, would be awesome. Unfortunately, I think he will leave and become a starter somewhere else. I think that's what Sam Darnold probably wants to do. But if you're Minnesota, you got to be open to that. You got to be open to bringing Sam Darnold back because keeping him on your roster would be huge for the rest of this team's development, for JJ's development. It'd be awesome. And for Atlanta, we'll conclude with them. This is why they're hitting the panic button, because they have officially lost first place in their division to Tampa. And at this point, it's going to be hard to get it back. It's going to be hard to get it back because there's a lot of teams in the NFC that are fighting for a wild card spot. And even though they have the tiebreaker over Tampa, which can help them, if they can't get things going back on track, if they can't win this division and take it back from Tampa, I fear they're not going to make the playoffs. And as I've said time and time again this year, the NFC South is the Falcons division to lose. This is theirs. On paper, they have the best roster. But they just keep on falling short. Kirk Cousins continues to struggle, and now their defense is starting to struggle. And if they don't get back on track, the things that have been positive about the Falcons all year long are going to start dipping. And before you know it, it's going to be an absolute disaster in Atlanta. And there's been rumors that they're going to bench Kirk Cousins and start Michael Penix, or that they should. And it's like, that's crazy talk. If you had told me going into the year that Kirk Cousins is going to be the starter for the Falcons and he got all this money and that he's playing so bad at the end of the year that they're thinking about benching him and starting Michael Penix after giving him all that money, oh Lord, like I would have told you were crazy. But now we're in this reality, and for Atlanta, they got to figure it out. They got to figure it out, because if they can't get back on track and take back this division, like I said, I fear that they are going to miss the playoffs. And that would be a very, very disappointing way for the Falcons to end their season, for sure. And we'll move on, and we'll talk about the team that did overtake Atlanta in the division, the Tampa Baker Buccaneers, winning 28-13 against the Las Vegas Raiders. Bucs winning 3 in a row. As I said, retaking first place in the NFC South. We're taking first place in the NFC South. And Baker Mayfield, 18-29, 295 yards, 3 touchdowns, had 2 interceptions. But here's the thing. Baker Mayfield, he does his best when you let him just play his heart out and just play ball. That's what made him so popular and so polarizing coming out of college at Oklahoma. This man just loves football, wants to play it, and you literally just have to let him play, because he was running around, making big-time throws, and he's so fun to watch. Baker Mayfield is one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch in the NFL, because the way he plays the game, it's him. It's his world with everyone else living in it, it feels like. And offensively, he's got the pieces to work with him. Jalen McMillan had 2 touchdowns in this game. He stepped up big. Sterling Shepard and Mike Evans and Cade Otton, all of them went over 60 yards. So nothing explosive from one player in the passing game, but very efficient, very clean. And then Rachaad White, 17 carries, 90 yards, a touchdown, caught a touchdown as well. Bucky Irving got hurt in this game, which is very unfortunate. I don't know what the extent of the injury is. But Sean Tucker, he had a big run in this game, so he filled in just fine, I guess. And the defense, they were playing free. They were letting things come to them. And nothing, explain, or what's the word I'm looking for? Nothing like epitomizes that narrative more than Tyke Smith getting a leaping interception. Pressure is coming. Aiden O'Connell, Raiders quarterback, kind of just throws it up to, can't remember who he was trying to throw it to. I think it was Jacoby Myers, maybe. Just kind of threw it up. Ball was floating, and Tyke Smith literally flew off the screen. Like, when he came in, he was off the ground. When he came into frame, he was off the ground and grabbed it midair, bam, fell down, and got an insane interception. That was awesome. That was really awesome. That was fun to look at. And overall, even though they had some breakdowns on defense for Tampa, they bent, but they really didn't break. They really did not break, especially because the 2 interceptions from Baker did not help. The Raiders did drive down the field and get a touchdown off of one of those. But overall, they stepped up and did their job when they needed to. And you look at Aiden O'Connell, 11-19, 104 yards, had the interception. He got hurt again in this game, which, God, that's so sad. He finally came back. He was healthy. He was doing okay for them. He played really well against the Chiefs a couple weeks ago, and to see him get hurt, go down again, just sucks. Devin Ritter stepped in. He was fine, I guess. And receiving-wise, Michael Mayer, 7 catches, 68 yards. Wish I could see more of him. Thought he was the best tight end coming out of the 2023 draft. They're not using him enough. And Brock Bowers, 3 catches, 49 yards. He was fine. Jacoby Myers, 7 for 67, getting more consistent, which is good. And then Sincere McCormick, 15 carries, 78 yards, 5.2 yards per carry. Not a spectacular game by any means, but this is 2 games now where Sincere McCormick has stepped up and done really well. And I looked at his story, really inspiring stuff. He's been injured on and off the Raiders practice squad, but coming in, he's played well starting these 2 games for them, and he needs to be on the roster next year. I think you need to get another running back to really flesh out the group. But you get a young running back and mix him up with Sincere McCormick. I think you have the potential here for a really good running game. And it's nice to see that they're finally figuring something out, kind of like Dallas has done with Rico Dowdle at running back. And we'll talk more about him tomorrow or on Wednesday because we'll be recapping Monday Night Football, as you know, on Wednesday's episode. But it's good. It's really good to see them doing that. He needs to be on the roster next year. I think he could play a bigger role and get another running back in the backfield to help him out. Defensively, the Raiders' defense was opportunistic. They had 2 interceptions, of course. They had 4 sacks. They were able to make the plays and give their offense a chance to, keep this thing close. It's just poor quarterback play has just simply held them back. If they're going to draft a quarterback in this upcoming draft, if they can get the right one and hit on it, the offensive pieces are nearly there to be a good offense. I would say they need a young wide receiver, obviously quarterback. They need a young wide receiver that's dynamic and explosive. They need a good running back to go alongside Sincere McCormick, shore up the offensive line a little bit, and I think this offense could be good. And in skill position-wise, just those alone is almost there. And defensively, it's a mess. I mean, they need a lot of stuff to fix on this defense for the Raiders, but offensively, so far, they're close. It feels pretty close, despite how bad the Raiders have been this year. You look at their pieces and you look at some of the improvement that some of the players are getting, like Jacoby Myers and Sincere McCormick. Brock Bowers continue to do what he's been doing all year long, and you can feel something. There's pieces there to work with in LA and Las Vegas. They just need to get the quarterback right and get another couple pieces in there to really flesh it out, and then boom, you got a potentially really good offense on your hands. For Tampa, they're now first place in the NFC South. It is their division to lose now. If they keep playing like they have been these past 3 games, they are going to run away with this division, which would be really, really awesome for Todd Bowles and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Next up on our list, the Panthers in an Eagles game. Eagles winning 22-16, continuing their hot winning streak in Carolina. You can't even be upset that they lost. We'll start with Philly. Saquon Barkley, 20 carries, 124 yards. At this point, the MVP conversation, I think, is going to go to Josh Allen, which we'll get to later on. But there is no doubt that Saquon Barkley is going to win Offensive Player of the Year. He is nuts. He is on pace to potentially break the single-season rushing record, which would be awesome. If he does that, then, okay, we have a legitimate case for Saquon Barkley being MVP. But, man, he's playing out of his mind. He continues to play great every game. And Jalen Hurts, 14 of 21, had 108 yards, 2 touchdowns, had 59 yards and a touchdown run. He has become so much cleaner playing quarterback. You look at last year, running the ball was obviously their MO, but Jalen Hurts these past couple of years before Barkley got here in Philly, he's obviously the focal point of the offense. The offense runs through him. But this year, they've really leaned on Saquon Barkley and let the offense run through him. And in turn, Jalen Hurts has been playing a lot more efficient, a lot more clean, and the offense looks really, really good. And you look at A.J. Brown, 4 catches, 43 yards. Devontae Smith had 4 for 37 and touchdown. Not great numbers. Obviously, Jalen Hurts only threw 100 yards. But, given how good the run game was in this game, how good Barkley was, it doesn't need to be. It just play clean, play solid football, don't make any mistakes, and bam, you're going to win a football game. And that's what happened here. Give a quick shout out to Grant Calcaterra, the backup tight end, had a 4th quarter touchdown that was really nice. I think it's the one that ultimately gave them a lead, or extended their lead and ended up having them win the game. Getting to the defense, though, they were challenged at points in this game. This was a close game by Carolina. Their offense was able to keep things interesting. And, of course, they bowed up at the end and played fine enough. But look at Bryce Young, 19 of 34, 191 yards, touchdown, had an interception. Not his best performance compared to the previous 4 games, but as I said, he was in there. He was making plays, and the Carolina Panthers were giving the Eagles defense problems. They were able to move the ball. They were able to do what they needed to do. Adam Thielen, 9 catches, 102 yards. Xavier Legette had a very big drop with 44 seconds left in the game, which would have given him a chance to tie it. So sad. That was a very critical mistake right there, but he's a rookie. Hard to really fault him there. Then Chuba Hubbard, he bounced back big. He had 26 carries, 92 yards, and a touchdown. The defense for Carolina had their work cut out for them, but they also challenged Philly. You can say that Jalen Hurts played a good game and say that the Carolina defense played well in containing the pass. Both of those things can be true because, like I said, Jalen Hurts didn't have to be extremely efficient because of how well they were running the football. But at the same time, Carolina's defense, they were able to contain and stop a lot of big plays from happening. They were able to play clean. They played disciplined. And that's a positive sign. Carolina's defense, as much as we've talked about the offense and Bryce Young improving, the defense has improved a lot too. And so credit to them for making this game close. Obviously, they were going up against the Philadelphia Eagles, so eventually they were going to break down. But Carolina's building something. And I know that they're 3-10, but you're looking for anything positive, but you're looking at how they're playing, and they're still competing, they're still fighting, which is obviously awesome. I've talked about that before. But I mean, if they can continue to build and they can get a couple more wins on the year and go into next year with Bryce Young being your quarterback, playing well, and there's a potential here for Carolina, kind of like in New Orleans. There's potential here for them to be much better at this same time next year. And it's very encouraging. It's very encouraging stuff what we're seeing from Carolina. And that's why I say it's hard to be upset, because most Carolina teams, when you think about how the bad Carolina Panthers, they would have gotten smoked by the Philadelphia Eagles. But no, they made it a one-score game, and they kept it close the majority of the game, going toe-to-toe with Philly, one of the hottest team in the NFL right now. That's all I'm going to say is this team is this is not the same Carolina Panthers team that was here the first half of the year and all last year. This is a different team. This is a better Carolina Panthers team, and I would not want to be facing them these last 4 games of the year, because they could play spoiler and really ruin another potential playoff hopeful team's day if they get caught lacking against this football team. Moving on to the Seahawks and Cardinals game. Seahawks get a win over the Cardinals 30-18, getting another good win, moving to 4 in a row. And Arizona's playoff hopes continue to be a steep uphill climb. Getting to the offense for Seattle, Geno Smith, 24 of 30, 233 yards, 1 touchdown. Let me read that again. 24 of 30, 233 yards, 1 touchdown. Do you notice something? Do you notice it? I'll tell you. 233 yards. Not the greatest day statistically for Geno Smith, but he's 24-30. 24-30. The efficiency was up. Could you take a guess as to why the efficiency of the quarterback was higher in this game? There's a dog barking. Because the dog knows too. The dog knows too. It's because the Seahawks ran the football well. Zach Charbonnet, 22 carries, 134 yards, 2 touchdowns, 6.1 yards a carry. Absolutely fan-flippin-tastic. This is something I talked about with the Seattle Seahawks. If they want to be a legitimate playoff team, if they want to prove that they deserve to be there, they have to be able to run the football. And doing that against a divisional opponent on the road is huge. Absolutely huge. And if they can continue to build on that, come January, this team is going to be a threat. Honestly, be a threat come playoff time. They really could be. This could be a Cinderella playoff team if they continue to run the football well and they continue to do everything else they've been doing well. God, it's just, I may be like over exaggerating right now, but Jesus Christ, the Seahawks have not been able to run the football all year long. They have not. They simply have not. And then they do this against the Cardinals on the road. And the Cardinals, they were right behind him in the division at that point in time before this game happened. And you know what? They went in there. They won. And now Seattle now is definitely the favorite to win the division at this point. They're 8-5. They're winning. They've won 4 straight games, and seeing the running game finally emerge, that's awesome. It's awesome because now we get to really see what Seattle can do. We really can see what Seattle's offense can do. And if it continues, like I said, if it continues to improve and the running game continues to get better, they will be a threat come January, come to the playoff time. They're going to give a team fits, and it's going to be a tight game if they can continue doing this. And their skill position players, other than Zach Charbonnet, who was great, JSN, he was good. DK Metcalf, he was good. Defense got 2 picks, handled their business. And for Kyler Murray going to the Arizona side, I mentioned this being an uphill battle for them now for the playoffs. 25-38, 259 yards, 2 touchdowns. The 2 interceptions simply was just not good enough in this game. The playmakers, James Conner, Trey McBride, Michael Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr. all had good games, but it's the turnovers that are just killing them. The same thing happened last time when they faced Seattle. They had a good game offensively, and they were able to do some good things. It's just the interceptions just killed them. Just killed them and gave Seattle an opportunity just to keep on scoring points. And with them being able to run the football like they did, it was just a recipe for disaster. And the defense simply was not prepared. They simply were not prepared for Zach Charbonnet and this running game, and it got out of hand really quickly. And once you can't get any stops and it kind of gets away from you, it makes it really hard for your offense, makes it really hard for your quarterback. And with the offense and defense struggling and not being able to complement each other, it's simply not going to work. And that's why they lost 30-18. And not to mention, Chad Ryland missed a kick in this game. I saw that he had to punt multiple times. I don't know if the starting punter for Arizona got hurt. That's an interesting thing. Cardinals fans, let me know in the comments down below about that situation. But for Arizona, man, their play, it's kind of like Atlanta, where if they don't win their division, they probably won't make the playoffs because the wild card race in the NFC is really tight and really good. Like the wild card teams right now in the NFC could almost be locked in. The 5th seed's locked in with Green Bay because they're 8-4 or 8-5 right now. They're definitely locked into that 5th seed in the wild card. So it's a battle of the 6th and the 7th. And right now there's 6 or 7 teams competing for those 2 spots. So Arizona, if they want a chance, they're going to have to win out. They can. That's still possible. But the margin for error is literally 0 at this point. It's literally 0. If they can't win out, they can't prove anything and prove that they deserve to be there, then, well, they're not going to be there, I guess. For Seattle, they are now the definite favorite to win this division. They've won 4 in a row. They've finally got the ground game going. And they are now looking even better as the year has gone on so far in this second half. And I think we have our second half resurgence team. I think we have it. When I say second half resurgence team, I don't just mean a team that just gets better in the second half of the year. I mean a team that is doing better in the second half and making the playoffs. Whether it's division winner, wild card, doesn't matter. They are playing great football here in this downhill stretch of the year. And here's to hoping that Seattle Seahawks can continue that trend. All right, and we'll move on now here to the 49ers defeating the Chicago Bears 38-13. Wow. I was definitely not surprising this butt whooping that the 49ers dealt to the Bears, showing they finally showed some signs of life, and Chicago suffered more disappointment. Starting with the 49ers, Brock Purdy, 20-25, 325 yards, 2 touchdowns, very good bounce-back game for him. Brandon Allen threw 1 pass and threw 1 interception in this game. I don't know, Purdy went out. I don't know what the heck happened there. 49ers fans, let me know in the comments. Fill me in here, guys, but other than that, George Kittle, 6 catches, 151 yards. He went insane in this game. He hasn't been great all year long, so they needed this. They finally got it. Juwan Jennings, 7 catches, 90 yards, 2 touchdowns. But the unsung hero is Isaac Guerrero, the rookie running back for the 49ers. CMC is down. Jordan Mason is down. He steps in. 15 carries, 78 yards, 2 touchdowns, 5.2 yards a pop, 2 catches for 50 yards. And then the backup, Patrick Taylor Jr., got pulled off the Packers squad, had his first career touchdown. Good for him. That's awesome. And the run game didn't really slow down. It wasn't particularly high numbers, but you see the 5.2 yards a carry, he was efficient, and that's all they really needed. Now, at the time of recording this video, Isaac Guerendo is also injured now, so that's very interesting. I don't know how severe it is. That's going to be something to keep an eye on when we do our weekly preview tomorrow, when I record it tomorrow. Then defensively, for the 49ers, we'll just continue on. They were all over the backfield. They stuffed the run multiple times. 7 sacks. Yetur Gross-Matos had 3 sacks. Leonard Floyd got 2. Leonard Floyd's been really good. He's been a very underrated pass rusher, man. He had 9 sacks last year in Buffalo out of nowhere. Like, he bounces around the league, but he continues to get sacks and continues to play well. Like Kyle Van Noy. He's like the Kyle Van Noy of the NFC. You know, these veteran pass rushers that can just continue to, just no matter where they go, they play well and put up really good numbers for their football team. So really good stuff. And getting into Chicago, Caleb Williams, 17-23, 134 yards, 2 touchdowns. I thought he was okay. Nothing fantastic, but a mostly clean game from Caleb. But it's hard to do what you need to do when you can't run the ball and you're getting sacked 7 times because your interior offensive line is just absolute dog water. But, I mean, other than getting an interception off for Brandon Allen, the defense for Chicago, they got picked apart. They got bullied. They simply were not prepared to play in this game. And I thought that Chicago, given the 49ers circumstances, I thought there was an opportunity here for them to pull off an upset, and they literally just fell flat. I did not expect this to happen. Chicago Bears season continues to spiral further and further into chaos. And for the 49ers, you know, they won. Seattle lost. We'll talk about the Rams here in a second. They won against the Bills. This NFC West race after this week feels a little bit more interesting now. Even though Seattle is definitely the favorite to win the division now, maybe one of these teams in the NFC West can kind of catch some fire and maybe give a Seattle run for their money, but also really fight for that wild card spot. Because if you want to look at historically, games that have been really good in the NFC playoff are NFC divisional matches in the playoffs. You think about the NFC Championship and the 49ers and the Seahawks, right? You think about the Cardinals and the Seahawks back in like 2015 or 2016, something like that. You think about that. And you think about the 49ers and the Rams the year in 2021 when the Rams won the Super Bowl in the NFC Championship game. Like, whenever the NFC West teams meet in the playoffs, it's almost always a classic. So having one of these teams maybe catch a late wild card spot, that'd be really cool to see. But it's pretty cool that NFC West is becoming a big thing. I'm kind of getting off track here. But now, after this week of football, the NFC West race seems to be catching some heat and getting interesting again. But what really sparked the interest of this topic and this narrative is the Rams defeating the Bills 44-42. Guys, we got our game of the year. This was the game of the year, no doubt about it. Listen to some of these statistics, guys. 902 yards of total offense between these two teams. 11 touchdowns. 53 first downs. 0 sacks. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Okay, LA. Okay, Rams. I see you. That is a statement win. The Rams have been a roller coaster all year round. They were 6-6, literally just up and down, and you get a win against the best team in the AFC? Come on, dude. Come on. That is awesome. That right there is something the Rams needed, and by golly, they got it. But before we talk about the Rams, we got to talk about the Bills first. We'll talk about the losing team, and then we'll get to the best part at the end with the Rams. The Bills, this was a trap game for the Bills. Look, the Bills have scored 30 points plus points in 7 straight games now, but they really haven't had any team outside of the Miami Dolphins really run with them and really compete with them like that. And the Rams, they quite literally ran straight past them. They were not prepared, and they were having to play catch up the whole game, and they simply could not catch up. And obviously, they couldn't run the ball well, which didn't really matter all that much. Josh Allen, 22 of 37, had 342 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns, 82 yards rushing. The first QB to do three rushing, 3 passing TDs in one game, and he still lost. And offensively, continuing on, Khalil Shakir had a huge 51-yard touchdown. He was great. Amari Cooper had his best game of the bill and had 95 yards. Mac Hollins had a really beautiful touchdown catch. Ty Johnson had a screen pass, ran for a touchdown. Ty Johnson, one of the more underrated players in the NFL. Him and Ray Davis backing up James Cook. That committee, overall, that trio is really freaking good. And all 3 of those guys are good players. They're really good players. I know, obviously, all the love goes to James Cook, their starter. But Ty Johnson is a really good receiving back out of the backfield. And he's made plays for them all year long. He's been a playmaker for them, and not a lot of people talk about him or show him appreciation, but Ty Johnson, he's good. Big appreciation to him. And then moving on to the Rams, Matthew Stafford, 23 of 30, 320 yards, 2 touchdowns. This man was dealing in what was a vintage Matthew Stafford performance. Puka Nacua, 12 catches, 162 yards, 1 touchdown receiving, 1 touchdown rushing. This man's a dog. He is a certified dog. This man plays football like a maniac. He will go up and catch a football. He will run for yards. I mean, this dude is a powerful football player. He runs through contact, catches a ball, and fights through contact. He doesn't care. He simply doesn't care. He had catches in this game that are absolutely nuts. He ran a corner route on the left sideline, leaped up, literally fully extended it, was able to catch it and get both feet down. Like, oh my God. Oh my freaking God. And this dude's like a linebacker playing wide receiver. It's insane how good this guy is when he's healthy, and he has 700 yards receiving on only 38 catches. Mind you, he missed a few games this year, like 4 games due to injury, 1 because he got ejected in the Seahawks game a few weeks ago. Jesus Christ, man. This dude is a dog. Cooper Kupp had a really good game as well. 5 catches, 92 yards, had a really beautiful touchdown, boxed out 2 defenders to catch it. Kyron Williams, 29 carries, 87 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was carrying the rock really, really well for them. And then we'll talk about both defenses here together collectively, because both of these defenses were awful in this game. They were both absolutely terrible, which I don't really care about. Offensively, they were both going off, so it was great back and forth game. But defensively, it was going to come down to who made more plays in the passing game. And simply, it was the Rams. They were able to get more pass breakups. They were able to contain Josh Allen a little bit better. And, man, just what a game for the Rams. What a statement win. You know, the Bills have been on a really big winning streak, and they just blew right past them and never looked back. They never looked back, and the ending of the game was kind of rough. They punted it. The Bills returner didn't just let it bounce to the end zone instead of trying to return it. That was a little bizarre. But, man, the Rams had a statement win in this game. And despite the fact that they've been up and down all year long, this was, excuse me, this was a very reassuring win for them. And, man, dude, if the Rams can somehow continue this and get into the playoffs and go up against Seattle, man, that's a playoff game that I would die to watch. But that's not here. Rams, great game for them. What a statement win for the 5th time saying that. Jesus Christ, can't stress that enough. How insane of a game this was. This was definitely the game of the year. And we are going to conclude it with Sunday Night Football, where the Kansas City Chiefs defeat the Chargers 19-17. Kansas City doinking their way to another win, and the Chargers walk away with plays left on the field. The Chiefs' backup kicker, Matthew Wright, by the way, hit the game-winning field goal, doinked it off the left upright, and it went in. Chiefs continue their streak of just black magic that are in wizardry, witchcraft, that's having them continue to win in crazy ways. But we'll start with the Chargers. Justin Herbert, 21 of 30, 213 yards, had a touchdown pass. I thought he was good in this game. He played well, especially in the first half when they were getting pressure. The Chiefs defense he was moving around. He was making plays happen. Joshua Palmer had a great night. He got open on numerous plays down the field, had a big wide open catch that was like 40-something yards. It was seam route. Beautiful. Quentin Johnson, 5 catches, 48 yards. He had a touchdown in this game. Not great, but made some big plays. Shout out to Stone Smart, the backup tight end for them. Had 3 catches, 54 yards. Will Dissly was kind of got a lot of attention, which allowed him to sneak out and make a couple plays, which is good. Although, I'll say this, Ladd McConkey missing them in the passing game hurt. We'll talk more about it later, but man, not having Ladd McConkey out there really hurt this offense, especially with getting open and being able to move the chains. And running the football, they ran for 94 yards, but Gus Edwards really didn't do that much. Kamani Vidal didn't really do all that much. 3.9 yards per carry as a team. Not the best showing. They really haven't been able to run the ball well since J.K. Dobbins has went out, and he's going to be out at least 2 more games for them. So he needs to be healthy come playoff time if they want to do something there. But going for the defense, I thought they played pretty well for the most part. They were getting after it against Patrick Mahomes. They got 3 sacks, over 20 pressures. They had a plan, and they were sticking to it for the most part. But what really killed the Chargers were the plays left on the field. As I said, the miscues on offense. There was a couple missed throws. Joshua Palmer, a big shot that would have been a touchdown, was missed. Quentin Johnston was covered by Trent McDuffie all game long. Simply could not get open. Multiple throws to him were just having to be he could not outmuscle him for a catch, make a catch in traffic. And Quentin Johnston, this is where Ladd McConkey really hurt them, because Joshua Palmer, he's a good slot receiver. He can separate. He's fine. But Quentin Johnston, he's not a separator. That's not his game. His game is to get him free, get him in motion, let him take the top off your defense. He's a speed guy. He's a Z receiver, not an X. And Ladd McConkey, he's not an X either, but he's one of the best separators in the NFL. As a rookie, he gets open all the flipping time. And so when you have that guy out and you don't have the guys behind him to be able to step up and, be able to do the same thing, it slows down your passing game. They couldn't convert on third down at times because receivers couldn't get separation. And then defensively, they missed on third down a lot. And the play at the end to seal the game is really what did it. Dayan Henley, one of their best players, was running after Mahomes, had him at the line of scrimmage. You make that tackle, they kick a field goal, and you give the Chargers the ball back with a chance to go win. And here he comes running right at him. Mahomes goes, whoop, slows down, makes a miss, finds a wide open Travis Kelce for a first down, and that ends up sealing the game for them. If you're going to play against the Kansas City Chiefs, I've mentioned it before, but I'll say it again. You have to play dang near perfect football to beat Patrick Mahomes, because as much as their offense has struggled this year, as much as their defense, honestly, has been pretty darn good this year, here's the thing. It does not matter what the Chiefs do throughout the first 3 quarters of the game. It doesn't matter what they do in the first half of the fourth quarter of a game. The Chiefs and Mahomes are going to always, always, always give you their very best at the end of a game. They're always going to give you their absolute best. That's what one of the best teams in the NFL does. That's what the best quarterback and head coach duo in the NFL does. That's what they do. And the Chargers, you cannot leave plays on the field against Kansas City. You simply cannot do that. You look at Buffalo, and when they beat Kansas City, the only team that's beat them so far this year, what did they do? They played a dang near perfect game and did not leave very much on the field for the Chiefs to take advantage of. And for the Chargers, they were in position to win this game. They probably could have won this game. They should have won this game, quite frankly. But the little miscues, the little mistakes that they continuously made ultimately became a snowball that was too big to overcome, and the Chiefs made them pay for it. And looking at Mahomes himself, 210 yards, had a touchdown. He was good in this game. Travis Kelce, 5 for 45. Xavier Worthy, 5 for 41. D-Hop caught a touchdown. They were all pretty good in this game. Isaiah Pacheco, his second game back, 14 carries, 55 yards. Not great overall, but early on he was carrying the rock really, really well. They were able to set the tone against his defense. And then against this Chargers defense and for Kansas City's defense, they were getting pressure. They were more successful in the second half. Herbert got hurt right at the end of the first half. Took a shot to his thigh, so it limited his mobility. So the Chiefs defense was able to make more plays there, which really helped, especially because the receivers could not get open. Shout out to Deshaun Wharton. He got 2 sacks, and there was multiple tackles for loss overall on this Chiefs defense they were able to force. And the Chiefs get another win. At this point, I don't know who else is going to stop them. At this point, I think they're going to finish out. They're going to be 16-1, which if that's the case, it's going to be really interesting that we have 2 16-win teams in NFL history. One of them is the Patriots 16-0, and the Chiefs at 16-1. man, the 17th game is still really interesting to me. But that is going to do it for me today, guys. It is currently 8:32. This video went a little bit longer than what I originally thought it was going to be. So if Monday Night Football is going on right now, or probably first quarter is almost done, if I had to guess. So that's going to do it for me, guys. I'm going to go check that out. Thanks you guys for watching. Don't forget to do whatever YouTuber tells you to do. You guys know the drill. Like, comment down below, subscribe to the channel. Pushing those two buttons, the like and subscribe button, help the algorithm and help me out so much. Please do it. Only takes a couple seconds. It's free. If you don't like it, change your mind. And then obviously share the video. If you don't share it on social media, tell your friends and your family about it. Get everybody locked in it and locked on to the Shumake Take podcast, coming out with great content for you guys every Tuesday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and every Wednesday at 8 a.m. And that's going to do it for me today, guys. Hope you guys have enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time.